Hello viewers, welcome back to Afro-Soul Love Chronicles, where dark romance, danger and forbidden desire collide in the heart of soul. Before we begin, don't forget to like, subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss another story. Now, let's dive into tonight's confession. The building was never quiet. It only pretended to be. At night, when Soul exhaled and the traffic softened into a distant hum, the walls of apartment 7B whispered everything they held. Pipes knocked. Floors creaked. Somewhere, a couple argued in low Korean. Somewhere else, a television murmured until dawn. But it wasn't those sounds that kept Imani Brooks awake. It was his voice. Every night at exactly 12:17 a.m. Low, calm, male. Always coming from the apartment beside hers. At first she thought it was a phone call. Then she realized something unsettling. He was always alone. Imani lay on her side, cheek pressed to her pillow, heart beating faster than it should have, listening to the way his voice slipped through the thin wall like it belonged there. "Say it again," he murmured one night. A pause. "No, don't lie to me." Another pause. His voice dropped lower. Controlled. Dangerous. "I don't repeat myself." Imani squeezed her eyes shut. She didn't understand the words sometimes. He spoke Korean, sometimes English, but the tone translated itself. Authority. Precision. The sound of a man who never asked twice. She told herself to stop listening. She never did. Imani hadn't planned to live in this building. She hadn't planned much of anything when she came to Seoul. She arrived with one suitcase, a temporary visa, and a need to disappear after a breakup that had hollowed her out in ways she didn't yet have language for. The apartment was cheap, the neighborhood quiet enough, the walls thin enough that loneliness couldn't settle too deeply. Except loneliness wasn't the problem anymore. Curiosity was. During the day she never saw him. She worked mornings at a cafe near Itaewon, evenings tutoring English online. She passed the door beside hers a dozen times, always shut. No shoes outside. No packages. No sign of life. A night he existed. And somehow only for her. Because sometimes, and this was what unsettled her most, it felt like he knew she was listening. One night as she lay frozen, heart pounding, his voice stopped mid-sentence. Silence stretched. Then clearly, deliberately, he said, "You're awake." Imani sat up so fast she nearly fell off the bed. Her breath came shallow. The wall stayed silent after that. No footsteps. No movement. Just the echo of his voice lodged beneath her ribs. The knock came 3 nights later. Not loud. Not aggressive. Just 3 precise taps. Imani stared at her door, pulse roaring in her ears. She hadn't told anyone where she lived. She hadn't made friends yet. She hadn't even learned most of her neighbors' names. Another knock. Her body moved before her mind caught up. She opened the door. He was taller than she expected. Broad shoulders filling the narrow hallway. Dark hair neatly cut. Dressed simply, black shirt, black coat, but carrying himself like the space belonged to him. His eyes found hers instantly. Dark. Focused. Unapologetic. "You listen," he said. Not a question. Imani swallowed. You don't deny it," he observed calmly. Heat crawled up her neck. "Your voice carries." "Yes," he said. "It's meant to." That answer sent a shiver through her. Silence stretched between them. Then he added softer, "You're not afraid." She laughed weakly. "I think my heartbeat disagrees." A pause. Something unreadable crossed his face. "Come inside," he said. Her instincts screamed no. Her curiosity stepped forward anyway. His apartment mirrored hers in layout, but not in feeling. Where hers felt lived in, scattered with books and clothes and unfinished thoughts, his was immaculate, sparse, controlled, nothing out of place, nothing unnecessary, a life built around discipline. He closed the door behind them. The sound felt final. "You shouldn't listen to strangers through walls," he said. "You shouldn't talk like you want to be overheard," she shot back. His lips curved faintly. Fair. They stood too close. Imani became acutely aware of the way his presence pressed against her senses. Not touching, not invading, but commanding attention. "What do you do?" she asked, needing grounding. He studied her. "I solve problems." "That's vague." "Deliberately." She nodded slowly. Figures. He turned, poured 2 glasses of water, handed her one. You came to Seoul to disappear, he said casually. Her fingers tightened around the glass. Excuse me. You don't use your real voice when you speak to people, he continued. You don't post photos. You don't invite anyone over. And you listen through walls like someone who doesn't want to feel alone. Imani stared at him. You've been watching me. Yes. Fear flickered, then something else. And, she challenged, going to report me for eavesdropping? His gaze dropped to her mouth for half a second. No, he said. I came to see if you were real. Her breath caught. And, she whispered. He stepped closer. You are. Imani didn't leave that night. She told herself it was just conversation. Just curiosity. Just 2 strangers testing the edges of something unnamed. They talked carefully at first. About music. About the city. About how loneliness could feel louder than any noise. He never told her his job. Never gave his full name. But he listened. Really listened. When she stood to leave, he didn't stop her. That unsettled her more than if he had. The next night, his voice returned. But this time it was different. Lower. Intentional. Are you listening? He murmured. Her breath hitched. Yes, she whispered, then froze. Silence. Then a soft knock. She opened the door without hesitation. Their connection deepened in fragments. Late-night conversations through the wall. Shared meals in silence. The way his gaze followed her like a promise he hadn't spoken yet. He never touched her. Never crossed a line. And somehow, that restraint felt heavier than any demand. One night, she asked the question she'd been circling for weeks. Why don't you? He looked at her calmly. Because you're not ready. Her chest tightened. You don't get to decide that. I do, he said. When it involves me. That should have angered her. Instead, it grounded something restless inside her. Until the night she tried to leave. She'd received an email. Her visa status flagged, paperwork delayed. Panic rose fast. Old instincts screamed run. She packed quietly, heart racing. The knock came before she reached the door. He stood there, eyes dark, jaw set. You're leaving, he said. How do you know? She demanded. You move differently when you're afraid. She lifted her chin. You don't own me. No, he agreed. But you belong here. Her breath shook. I belong to myself. So do I, he said. That's why I never touched you. Silence pulsed between them. Then he stepped aside. If you go, he said quietly, you'll never hear my voice again. Her chest ached. She dropped the suitcase. That night everything changed. He didn't rush her. Didn't claim her. He touched her like a question. Like a promise. And when he finally spoke her name against her skin, it sounded like something sacred. Later, tangled in sheets, she asked the question she'd been afraid of. Who are you? He met her gaze. A man who learned too late how dangerous silence can be. She nodded, understanding more than words could explain. Months passed. The building remained thin-walled. But now, when his voice came through at night, it wasn't distant. It was beside her. Sometimes behind her. Sometimes whispering things only she was meant to hear. She had heard his voice through the wall every night. She never expected what would happen when he finally knocked. And neither of them ever slept the same way again. Imani didn't sleep that night. She lay awake beside him, the city breathing through the cracked window, his presence anchoring and unsettling her all at once. He didn't touch her while she drifted in and out of shallow rest. One arm rested behind her, close enough to feel, not close enough to claim. Restraint again. Always restraint. You're thinking too loudly, he murmured sometime before dawn. She turned her head. You always know. I listen, he said simply. That word settled deep in her chest. In the days that followed, Seoul seemed to sharpen around them. Men lingered too long near the building entrance. A black car appeared twice on the street below, engine idling, never staying long enough to feel coincidental. One afternoon, when Imani returned from work, she found her apartment door unlocked. Nothing missing. Nothing disturbed. Except the certainty that someone had been there. Her neighbor was waiting when she stepped into the hallway. You didn't touch anything, she said quietly. No, he replied. They wanted you to know. Her stomach dropped. Who are they? He studied her face carefully, weighing something. People who don't knock. That night, he finally told her the truth. Not all of it, but enough. He wasn't a criminal in the loud, reckless sense. He was the man called when silence was required, when negotiations failed, when reputations needed to disappear without blood on the floor. Soul's underworld didn't fear him because he was violent. They feared him because he was precise. I tried to keep you separate, he admitted, standing by the window, city lights cutting sharp lines across his face. But you noticed me. And once someone notices, distance becomes a lie. Imani crossed her arms. So what happens now? Now, he said calmly, you stop pretending you can walk away untouched. Fear rippled through her, but so did something else. Clarity. She nodded slowly. I'm not afraid of you. I know, he said. That's why I'm dangerous to you. The threat came 2 nights later. A sound at the door. Not a knock. A test. He moved before she could speak, pushing her behind him. Body positioning instinctive, lethal. A low warning left his throat. Not loud but final. The sound on the other side retreated. When silence returned, his breathing was steady, but his jaw was locked tight. You should have left, he said. No, she replied, voice shaking but firm. You should stop deciding for me. He turned, eyes dark. You don't understand what staying costs. I understand exactly, she shot back. It costs certainty. It costs safety. It costs pretending. They stood inches apart, tension crackling like exposed wire. For weeks, she continued, you listened to me through walls. You learned my rhythms, my silences. You don't get to act surprised now that I won't run. Something broke in him then. Not loudly, not violently, just a fracture in control. He reached for her, not roughly, not possessively, but with intention. This, he said quietly, changes everything. She leaned into him. It already has. From that night on, there was no pretense. They didn't hide. They didn't announce themselves either. Their intimacy grew in quiet ways. Shared mornings, the weight of his hand at her lower back when strangers passed too close, the way his voice softened only when he spoke her name. He never lied to her. But he didn't promise safety. One evening, as rain painted the windows silver, she asked the question that had been waiting between them. Will you ever leave this life? He didn't answer immediately. No, he said finally. But I will redraw its borders. For me, she asked. For us, he corrected. That was the moment she understood. He wasn't asking her to adapt to his darkness. He was choosing to contain it. The final test came unexpectedly. An offer. Clean. Tempting. A relocation package. New identity. Quiet money. Notais. Freedom. She read the message twice before handing him the phone. He looked at it, then at her. If you take it, I won't stop you. She searched his face. Would you follow? No, he said honestly. I would let you go. Her chest ached. And if I stay? Then, he said softly, there will be no walls left between us. Imani set the phone down. I heard your voice through the wall every night, she said. I survived because I listened. I'm not leaving now. That night, when he finally pulled her fully into him, there was no hesitation left. No distance. No pretending. Only choice. Only consent. Only 2 people standing where silence used to live.